We're in the middle of Q4 and no one does this, but we're going to break down the anatomy of Q4 and things to watch out for. Let's go. Hey, let's take a quick second to do a little side note. If you're getting value from this podcast, it would mean a lot to us if you could subscribe wherever you're listening. So let's make this our generous agreement. If you're getting value, we'd love it if you could just click subscribe, potentially the bell button, and make our day. Cheers. Hey, Zamir. All right, so I apologize in advance. I'm coming in from 2017. I forgot my headphones. So I have these beautiful ones here, just like the cassettes behind me.
I'll buy you some new ones on Black Friday.
Thanks. What a treat. And that's the topic for today, right? So topic for today, we really want to deep dive into Q4. Everybody knows in the world of retail, Q4 is the season, it's the time where a huge chunk of sales happen in pretty much all categories. Not everyone, but most of them. And so it's a peak time, right? Very few people go and geek out like we do and dissect it down, look at the data, and do predictions of what's going on and what's going to happen. So let's kind of do that. Zamir, you can lead the discussion in terms of the calendar of events that are coming up. But essentially, guys, we want to break down, there's a swell coming. Everyone knows the swell's coming. It's built up. When's it going to break? Just like the picture behind Zamir and the surfer, when is the time to really catch that wave and when's it like to make the most of it? So let's do that. Zamir, you lead the charge. Let's have a little chat.
Okay. All right, so we're talking about quarter four. Quarter four is October to December. Q4, we start seeing traffic increasing through October, but it really starts to switch up. I think the first signal we see is when clocks change, right? Clocks change, people start getting into winter mode. We hit Halloween. We see a big burst for that for Halloween, half term at the end of October.
Chocolates, decorations, costumes, all that kind of thing.
All of that side. Then fireworks, 5th of November. And pretty much straight after fireworks, we see everything move into Christmas mode. And it starts to build through November, all aiming for, it's almost, I wouldn't say so much as a crescendo or it's that swell that you're talking about, right? It's like this wall of traffic that's surging towards the end of November, but we're waiting for it to break because there is one particular date that seems to be the key instigator for that break. And that's Black Friday.
Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? Everyone talks about it and everyone's kind of dived into it. But, okay, so we probably assume a lot of our listeners are going to be UK, Europe based, right? So Black Friday, when does it occur each year and what's the kind of like history behind it? What's the genesis behind it?
Okay, so Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is...
in the US. US Thanksgiving, not Canadian.
Not the Canadian one, though. I didn't actually know there was a Canadian one. I assume it's different. So it's the US Thanksgiving. US Thanksgiving is the Thursday before the last Friday of November. That's when Thanksgiving is. Black Friday follows on from that. And that's a really important fact, okay? It's not just a little bit of trivia there because it moves. And what's really interesting this year when we're looking at the data is Thanksgiving has moved quite significantly, and so has Black Friday. So it is almost an entire week later this year than it was last year. And so when we're looking at year-on-year data, we have to build that into our projections.
And we kind of like define in this way, we kind of like define the Q4 season as pre-Cyber Monday and Black Friday and post, right? And it kind of goes up until Christmas. And there's like a little pocket just after Christmas that leads into New Year, right? So looking at last year, there were 5 weeks of prime selling weeks just afterwards. And this year there's 4, right?
One less prime week.
Yeah. So for anyone who's an account manager here, if your KPIs is going to improve on year or sales, you're going to have a week of gap to factor in because Black Friday Cyber Monday's moved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think So if we look back to last year's figures, there are a couple of underlying trends we need to be aware of. One being that, so we started to see conversions really peaking the Monday before Black Friday. So Black Friday was on the 24th. It was the 20th is where we started to see conversions start to peak. That then carried through to Black Friday. Cyber Monday is always the Monday after Black Friday. But in Europe, particularly in the UK, payday didn't fall till after Cyber Monday. And so we saw a huge number of conversions then follow the following weekend. This year is going to be really interesting. We're looking at the data now, but what we're projecting is there's a number of people in the UK who don't know when Black Friday is. We think there's going to be a lot of retailers that are pushing Black Friday earlier than it actually is. So there will be activity that's actually occurring before that. But it is, I think, going to really bank up is Amazon's key Black Friday is the 29th of November through to the 2nd of December. And both of those dates then fall after or on payday. So we're going to see almost like that what was 10 days last year compressed into 4 days of massive amount of selling.
So that's the peak times. And there's a couple bits in there that I think you touched on, I think important to unpack. The first one is, and this is more of like a tidbit really, but there's Amazon in particular, but a lot of marketplaces do Black Friday week. So the whole week leading up to Black Friday. And then there's deals over the weekend. And then there's Cyber Monday, the Monday afterwards, but then the whole week, Cyber Monday week, right? So I think that's a really important thing to factor in. The second thing, though, that you touched on, I think this is the critical one because we do a lot of analysis around this, especially heat mapping. When are people purchasing? And we see patterns around payday. So let's just talk about that and then how that influences this.
We know there's a monthly cycle. We know that payday is really important. Obviously, payday in the UK varies. We know that this is true in every country. So we know in the US, there's a cycle that sits very differently to the UK. In a lot of scenarios, they're paid every 2 weeks, and you see that 2-weekly cycle. In Germany, for example, we know that a lot of employers pay on exactly the same day. And again, that's very markedly shown in Germany. So we know payday is very influential, and you can't miss that consideration. It's an important part of your calculation.
Yeah, that's true. So basically, when payday is just afterwards, that's when you get a big spike in purchasing. There's a noticeable, significant, or statistically significant increase in purchasing just after payday. And in this case, it occurs on the 29th. Is that right, Zamir?
Last Thursday will be the 28th. Friday the 29th will be the last working day of the month. So everyone will definitely have been paid by the 29th.
So buckle your seatbelts. I think we got a few days in when this is getting recorded before, in advance of that. But when this gets released, buckle in. You're going to have maybe a week or two to kind of like really kind of push things out and get everything lined up. Hopefully you have already, but just in case, that's what's going to happen. And then let's talk about just after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So what happens after that? So what's the general behavior there? And what should people kind of factor in when they look at that?
So interestingly, when we look at the data, it's the high-end ticket items that seem to attract the most conversions in those first few days in that first week of Black Friday. So those are electronics, a key category, people buying big ticket items. Then once they've got those, they move down their list to the smaller items and look for savings there. So depending on which category you're in, the lower your ticket item, I would expect that anticipate that it's going to come maybe a week after all those big ticket purchases have been done.
There's two little interesting dynamics that we also pick up on when we look at the data, right? The first one is weather and how weather influences things. So do you want to just talk through the one about weather?
Yeah, we've got unseasonably warm weather at the moment. We know for a fact that if it's raining, that pushes up online purchases. We know if there's a short snowfall, that pushes up online purchases. We know if there's long-standing snow that disrupts deliveries, especially the closer that is to Christmas, that can actually dampen sales. So keep an eye on the weather forecast.
Yeah, especially if you're selling in a market that's not in your home country, right? So if you're based in one country and you're selling to the US or something else, keep that in mind because that's going to influence things. So keep that in mind. And the second one we noticed as well, and don't want to kind of get into trouble with anyone, but any gender-based categories Zamir, thoughts?
Or you're going to get me to put my thoughts in?
Yeah, I'm going to get you to say it.
Okay, fine. So when it comes to search volumes, gifts for him trend and peak in November. Gifts for her trend and peak in the week before Christmas.
It's all considered. Everyone gets their gifts. It's just people. Everyone's different levels of organization.
It is a very generalist view, but the data doesn't lie. That it tells us who's doing the purchasing and shopping.
And then all this continues up until the delivery day, right? So the last day of delivery is like what you really can have to keep in mind, right?
Yeah, so we've got Christmas falling on the 25th, which is a Wednesday. Last chance for ordering is actually going for Amazon. For a lot of them, is going to be on the 23rd. So it will be up till then. Last posting date for a lot of D2C sites is the week before that. So again, we generally see on Amazon a massive peak. The once D2C sites have said we can't get it there anymore, everyone flocks to Amazon to see what's left that they can buy and have delivered. And again, tends to focus around gifts for her more than anything. I think it's also worth pointing out when it comes to Black Friday, the US operates and responds quite differently to the UK because people there know when Black Friday is supposed to be, i.e. they celebrate Thanksgiving, so they understand when Black Friday is there. So the chances are if you're selling in the US market, your numbers will not, when you look at year on year, you'll probably be down comparatively until a week later, maybe 5 or 6 days delay on your figure. So bear that in mind. Interestingly, in Germany, they really do seem to buy into the peak selling time. So a lot more sales are done in those 4 days between the 29th and the 3rd, I think.
So many stereotypes. Organized women, organized Germans.
Just looking at the data.
Numbers only. Fantastic. And then there's one little bit that we should talk about, which I think is interesting. The buying that occurs in that window between Christmas and New Year's.
I love this because it's changing, right? We've got this year on year. The number of sales, particularly on Christmas Day, have been increasing. And it's generally it's so quiet from the 24th. Christmas Eve is no orders coming through, and then Christmas morning is really quiet, and then around lunchtime on Christmas Day we start to see the orders picking up. And I do true when you look at what people are buying, I think it's very much for themselves. They've got those gift vouchers, the gift cards. Later in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, everyone's had their Christmas lunch, and they're a little bit bored. And they start to go shopping.
Phones come out, and it kind of goes through in that final week through with that kind of like gifts for myself kind of session. Plus looking ahead to like, I want to get healthy for January.
And I think there's one other point. Quietest day of the year, always, New Year's Eve, 31st of December.
Everyone's out having fun.
Yeah.
All right, Zamir, today's question. I grew up in New Zealand, and there was this really awesome ad when I was growing up called Togs, Undies. Great ad, by the way. Check it out. But they asked a really cool question. So in New Zealand, we call swimsuits togs. So at what point does your swimsuit become undies? You're wearing your Speedos. You got your budgie smugglers. You start walking away from the water. At what point are you walking around in your underwear?
For me, the minute I even consider moving away from the beach mentally, I'm in my underwear.
wearing budgie smugglers.
There isn't this. I've gotten this far. Oh my God, is someone actually going to look at me and think that? Not realize I've come from the beach. In my head, if I'm even considering leaving the beach, I feel like I'm in my underwear. So where is it for you? I take it if there's a bar on the beach, you walk into the bar.
Hey, look, if you want to break this down, we can. We've got time. Let's do this. So basically, you'll be walking down the road to get an ice cream, 100 meters. Are you in your underwear? You might get in your car. You're still in your swimsuit, and you go to a petrol station. Are you in your underwear?
How many miles away is the petrol station?
Let's say it's 5K down the road. Can't even see the beach anymore. When does it become underwear?
Ali, just put a t-shirt on, man.
Cool. Well, that's the anatomy of Q4, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. There's a couple key factors to factor in, especially for this year, which is really interesting. And so keeping in mind what dates everything occurs, paydays, weather, how your category interacts with your customers, I think is really important. So hopefully that's been beneficial. A couple little hacks and bits of insights. So let's leave it there. One love, team.
One love.